Have you ever looked at someone and thought, they're special, they have talent, they were born different, and then quietly looked at yourself and felt invisible, felt replaceable, felt ordinary? Maybe you were the quiet one in class. Maybe you were never picked first. Maybe no one ever pointed at you and said, "Watch this person. They're going to be something great." This is the story of a boy who believed he was ordinary, but what he discovered changed not only his life, but the lives of everyone around him. And maybe it will change yours too. In a small town surrounded by quiet streets and simple houses, there lived a boy named Daniel. Daniel was not the kind of boy teachers talked about in staff meetings. He didn't win competitions, he didn't break records, he didn't stand out, he blended in. At school, he always chose the seat in the back row, not because he was forced, but because he believed that was where he belonged. The front seats were for the smart students. The middle seats were for the confident ones. The back was safe. From there, he could watch others shine, and no one would notice him not shining. When the teacher asked a question, Daniel often knew the answer, but his hand stayed down. He would think, what if I'm wrong? What if they laugh? What if I'm not as smart as I think? So he stayed quiet, and slowly, silence became his identity. Daniel had a classmate named Ryan. Ryan was everything Daniel believed. He was not smart, confident, athletic, popular. Teachers admired him, parents praised him, students followed him. When report cards came out, Ryan's name was always at the top. Daniel's name was somewhere in the middle. Never failing, but never exceptional. At family gatherings, relatives would say, "Ryan got first place again. Such a bright boy." Then they would look at Daniel. "And you? How are your grades?" Daniel would smile politely. "Good." But inside, something would tighten. Comparison is dangerous. It doesn't scream. It whispers, "You are not enough." And Daniel started believing that whisper. But here's what no one noticed. Daniel stayed after school to help. Stacked chairs. Daniel shared his lunch when someone forgot theirs. Daniel explained math problems to a struggling classmate during breaks. He didn't do it for praise. He did it because it felt right. But kindness without recognition can feel invisible, and invisibility slowly convinces you that you don't matter. One afternoon, while everyone was celebrating Ryan's sports victory, Daniel walked home alone. He looked at his reflection in a shop window. He didn't see potential. He saw average, and average in his mind meant unimportant. One day during a class discussion, the teacher asked, "What does it mean to be successful?" Hands shot up immediately. "To be rich," one student said. "To be famous," another shouted. "To win competitions," someone added. Daniel stayed quiet. Then the teacher looked at him. "Daniel, what do you think?" The class turned. His heart raced. He almost said, "I don't know." But something inside pushed him to speak. "I think success is when you help someone and they feel better because of you." The room went silent, not because it was wrong, but because it was unexpected. The teacher smiled softly. "That's a powerful answer." It was the first time Daniel's voice had filled the room, and it felt strange, but warm. A few weeks later, the school announced a major community project. It was important. The entire town would attend. Every student needed a role. Some volunteered for speeches, some for design, some for organizing games. Daniel didn't move. He assumed no one needed him. But the teacher noticed. After class, she called him. "Daniel, why don't you ever volunteer?" He shrugged. "I'm not really good at anything." She looked at him carefully. "Who told you that?" He didn't answer. Because no one had said it directly, but comparison had told him every day. The teacher continued. "I've watched you. You may not be loud, but you are steady. You may not seek attention, but people trust you." Daniel blinked. No one had described him like that. Before, she handed him a paper. "You will coordinate the entire project." His eyes widened. "Me?" "Yes, because leaders are not always the ones in front. Sometimes they are the ones holding everything together behind the scenes." Daniel was terrified. What if he failed? What if people didn't listen? What if he proved he really was ordinary? The first meeting was chaotic. Students argued. Ideas clashed. Deadlines felt overwhelming. Daniel wanted to disappear. But then he remembered something he had always been good at: calming people. So he tried. "Let's organize this step by step," he said gently. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. And slowly, the noise softened. For the first time, Daniel wasn't hiding. He was guiding. As the weeks passed, problems appeared. The decoration team ran out of materials. The speech team argued over scripts. The music system stopped working. During rehearsal, every time chaos rose, Daniel stayed calm. He didn't panic. He didn't blame. He solved. He borrowed materials from another class. He helped rewrite parts of the speech. He contacted the technician early. No applause followed. But stability did. People started saying, "Ask Daniel. He'll figure it out." And without realizing it, he was becoming essential. The night before the big day, Daniel couldn't sleep. What if something went wrong? What if he disappointed everyone? Doubt visited again. It whispered, "You're not special." But this time Daniel questioned the whisper. What if being steady is special? It was the first time he challenged his insecurity, and that small shift changed everything. The event day arrived. The hall was full. Parents filled the seats. Teachers moved nervously. Students prepared backstage. Then, problems started. A performer forgot lines. A banner fell. The sound system glitched. Again. Panic spread, but Daniel didn't freeze. He acted. He reassured the performer, fixed the banner, signaled the backup. Audio from the audience. Everything looked smooth. They clapped. They smiled. They celebrated. They never saw the invisible work, but the teachers did. After the event, the principal said something powerful. Success is not only about the ones who shine on stage. It is about the ones who make sure the stage doesn't collapse. And he looked at Daniel. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt seen. Later that evening, Ryan approached him. "I couldn't have handled that." "Pressure," Ryan admitted. "You were calm the whole time." Daniel almost laughed. He hadn't felt calm, but he had acted calm. And sometimes courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving despite it. Ryan continued. "You know, not everyone can do what you do." That sentence shattered years of self-doubt. Not everyone can do what you do. Daniel realized something life-changing. He had spent years trying to be like others, but his strength was never in being loud. It was in being reliable. Daniel walked home that evening. Under a quiet sky, he thought about all the times he felt small. All the comparisons, all the silent doubts, and he asked himself, what if I was never ordinary, just different? The world celebrates stars, but it forgets the sky that holds them. The world applauds winners, but forgets the quiet effort behind them. Maybe ordinary isn't a weakness. Maybe it's misunderstood strength. Years passed. Daniel didn't become famous. He didn't become a celebrity. He became something else. A dependable colleague. A thoughtful friend. A steady leader. In his workplace, when crises appeared, people turned to him. In his family, when tensions rose, he brought calm. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but he was trusted. And trust is more powerful than applause. One day a young intern approached. "Him? I feel like I'm not special," the intern said. Daniel smiled gently. He saw his younger self, and he replied, "Being ordinary is not the problem. Believing you are less is. You feel invisible. If you feel average, if you feel like everyone else is ahead, listen carefully. The world does not only need stars, it needs foundations. It needs people who show up, who stay steady, who care quietly, who solve problems without applause. You may not be loud, but you might be strong. You may not shine for a moment, but you might last for a lifetime. Never let comparison shrink your value. Never let silence convince you that you don't matter. You are not ordinary. You are quietly powerful. And sometimes, the quiet ones carry the world. Being ordinary is not a weakness. It is often the beginning of extraordinary impact. If this story touched your heart, comment below. I am more than ordinary. Like this video. Share it with someone who feels invisible. Subscribe to Timeless Tales for more stories that remind you who you truly are. Because sometimes the quietest people leave the loudest legacy.